We're here in southern Spain to ride BMW's brand new 2025 R1300 GS Adventure. And what we came to discover is, why would you buy the Adventure model over the standard base models that came out last year? So there's quite a few things that are different about this bike, and over the course of the next couple days, we're gonna ride this bike on road and off, and we're gonna really get to the bottom of what this bike is all about, who the buyer is, and why they would buy this motorcycle over the standard base models. So we're gonna do a little bit of road, a little bit of street on two different variations of the GS Adventure, and hopefully when we're all done, we'll have a really clear understanding of who this bike is for, and if it's an awesome bike, and if it's a big improvement over the base model. And hopefully when we're done, we'll have a really clear idea of what the GS Adventure is all about. So stay tuned, and we're gonna keep digging into it. All right, it's our first morning here in southern Spain. So we're lined up on a dark morning. We're about to take off and get our first experience riding this bike. And we'll check in later in the day and just give you an idea of what we think. 5 things you need to know about BMW's 2025 R1300 GS Adventure. The first thing is, this bike carries much more fuel on board than a standard GS. This bike comes with 7.9 gallons of fuel capacity. Number 2, which is this bike is a lot heavier than the standard model. This bike comes in at 593 pounds ready to ride. This bike also has longer travel suspension, has 8.3 inches of travel in the front and 8.7 in the back. And with that comes a higher seat height. But if that's too high for you, BMW also has a low seat option, and they also make a high seat option. And then lastly, the BMW R1300 GS Adventure is the first motorcycle in BMW's range to come with the new ASA automated shift assistant system. And so you don't have a clutch lever, but you have a foot lever, and you can either run it in full auto mode or in manual mode. And we tried both and found it to work really well, and we'll talk more about that in the story. The difference is between the automated and the manual, obviously, is that in the manual mode, you're doing the shifting with the shift lever. You shift it in a conventional way, but if you do come to a stop and you have forgotten to downshift and it's about to stall, it will downshift for you. And then on the opposite side, if you're just banging the thing off the rev limiter and it thinks that you're going to damage the engine, it's going to upshift for you. So that's kind of the operation of the manual mode. Whereas the automated is fully what you would expect. You basically put it into gear, and then it becomes a fully automatic transmission, making all the shift decisions for you. So we headed up into the mountains above Malaga, Spain, and we're doing some pretty sporting riding. And honestly, the system in manual mode just works absolutely excellent. It shifts, really crisp, much crisper than a normal quick shifter that we've experienced. Obviously pulling away from a stop takes a little bit of trust. You're trying to, the bike is basically doing all the clutch work for you. So you kind of have to build the trust with that. But after doing a whole bunch of U-turns for photos and things like that, we really got a good idea of how the bike picks up when it's taking off. And there's no herky-jerky motion or anything like that. I thought the system worked really, really well. And then the other thing is that off-road, when we were riding in the dirt, we really preferred the manual mode because it really allows you to kind of choose the gear that you want to be on. Let's say you're descending some steep dirt sections and you want to have the engine braking available and you don't want it upshifting when you're not expecting it. It really gives you the control that you want off-road. And so that's one of the benefits of having the manual mode and not always being in the automatic mode. Riding around in urban traffic, or if you're just on the highway, the fully automated mode really makes a lot of sense. We were trying it out for basically a big chunk of our day in fully automatic mode to just see how it worked. Came away really impressed. I think the way the system works is it knows basically what you're doing with your throttle input. It knows how aggressively you're braking and riding. So we found that for the most part in fully automated mode, even when you're riding at a really aggressive pace, the system worked really, really well. So this system, ASA, really kind of gives you the best of both worlds. And, if that's something that you're interested in, then overall, our judgment was that the system works great. And it kind of makes this bike more versatile than the standard model. Seriously, if it's something that you're looking for, we would highly recommend it.
can load up the GSA with the panniers, you have all your gear, you put on the knobby tires, and this bike can kind of do it all, which is really impressive. So I think that that's the one thing that really separates it. And the reason that, you know, a GSA really is different is you've got more fuel, you've got longer travel suspension, you've got, you know, some other details that make the GSA unique. It's also got a lot more of the bells and whistles stock on it that comes standard. So you add all those things up and it starts to make sense. Okay, so the next thing that we're going to talk about are the BMW R1300 GS Adventures electronics package. Both of the versions that we rode over the past couple days have some different features. Some of them had the adaptive ride height control, some of them didn't, but there's a whole bunch of options that you can get, and we just wanted to kind of go over some of the basics. So like any of these bikes, you've got your basic rider aid packages with the TC and the wheelie control and all the stuff that you expect on a modern electronics package. But then on the BMW, you've got the adaptive ride height, which lowers the seat height about 1.2 inches when you come to a stop. And then as you accelerate over 50 kilometers per hour, it rises back up that same amount so that you can get good footing on the ground when you're stopped. And that's a big option that I would go for most people, because when this bike is loaded down and you're moving super slow, it does feel a little bit heavy. Some of the other options that the bike is available with is the radar-enabled cruise control, super nice. It's got the blind spot protection as well, so you can see when somebody's in your blind spot. We tried out the cruise control on the Autostrada today, and it works very well. Picks up motorcycles, picks up cars, and just sets your speed and controls it just like you would expect. A couple of the other things, it's got the Shift Assist Pro. So overall, you've got a lot of bells and whistles with the GSA, and I think going through the options packages and, you know, seeing what you want and what you're going to use, I think a lot of people are going to try out a bunch of these new features. It's got a great engine, the power, the delivery, everything about it just makes this bike really flexible. And so the GSA is really for that person who wants one bike that can kind of do everything. Maybe people aren't going to go and ride off-road as much as we did, but that doesn't matter because then the bike's great touring. But if you were riding from Tijuana to Cabo San Lucas and you wanted to have the perfect bike, well, the GSA would be hard to argue against, and you can do anything you want on this bike and travel anywhere you want to go and put the bags on, put a passenger on, and really go and do what this bike was meant for, and that's kind of globe-trotting. So I think that's who this bike is for, and I think after 2 days, we have a really clear understanding of what the GSA is all about, and think it's an awesome bike. So anybody that's kind of looking for that do-it-all adventure bike that can tour and do dirt, this is the bike for sure. So I'm sure you're gonna have comments and questions, so please, if you like what you see, leave comments in the comments, we'll try to answer them, and please subscribe, and thanks for watching.